Hello everyone, thank you for listening and watching. My name is Neferititi and you can find my information in the description box below. In this video, I'm going to go into a little more detail about returning energy to sender. We're going to also call this spell work because that's basically what it is, right? But let's get into it. So there are three types of energy, and you've heard me talk about this in other videos: positive energy, negative energy, and unwanted energy, right? So when we're talking about negative energy, we know that's obvious. It's things that are bad, evil, right? Things that are immoral, whatever. Unwanted energies could not necessarily be negative, but just something that you don't want in your life, right? Something that might be appropriate or in alignment with someone else, but not necessarily you. So that's the difference between negative and unwanted energy. Now, there's energies that you want to keep, obviously, right? Positive energy. And then there's energy that you transmute, right? Energy that typically comes into your life when you're going through some kind of upgrade or ascension, that dark night of the soul energy. So when I talk about energies that you transmute, it's about, your experiences, the things that you've learned from them, the lessons, right? That's transmuted energy, because we always have a choice. We can get the lesson, or we could continue to go through karmic loops and whatever happens, right? Two types of energies that we typically want to keep and work with and use for our betterment, for our growth. Now, there are energies that you want to send back. And just to give a little preface here, I'm going to be using terms that are tied to metaphysical, magical practices, occult practices. So keep in mind, this is just how I'm describing these things. You can, substitute any terminology that you like, but for the context of this video, I'm going to be talking about different types of spell work, because I feel like that's something that we can all understand, something that we all kind of know about, and it'll just make sense if I use this terminology. Okay? When you're thinking about returning energy, it's almost like you're redirecting energy, okay? We have a right as sovereign beings, as people that are supposed to be in charge of our own lives, to decide what types of energies we want in our life. And so that obviously implies that we're going to have to be active in this process, right? We can't just allow energies to come at us, and we also need to maintain our energy and seek out energies that we want, right? The types of energies that you want to send back. The types of energies that you want to send back. Again, I'm going to use terms that are connected to magical practices. So let's start with actual spell work. So let's start with that's going to actual kind of tie everything together. Because that's going to kind of tie everything together. So a magical formula used to give someone magical influence over something else. Someone influence over something or negative. Right? Positive spell work is any work that you do on yourself for personal or spiritual growth, right? So what I consider positive spell work would be like working with affirmations, or doing like crystal grids for self-love or prosperity, or working with certain spirit animals because you want to improve your life in some way. It's considered spell work because you're using something to give you energy, right? It could be a magical formula, right? I mean, crystal grids and typically spell work does follow a formula, but it doesn't have to be like that, right? This could actually be thoughts, because intention is everything, right? So your thoughts could be that magical formula. Setting new moon intentions, making a wish on your birthday, and telling someone to go to hell are all examples of spell work. I want to talk about glamour spells for a minute, because there's a lot of different types of glamour spells, first of all, but me personally, I don't think this is a very conducive thing for people to do. I just don't feel like it's beneficial to try to influence the way someone else perceives you. I don't see how that's going to be helpful for you or that person in the long run. It's actually deceptive, and this is just my opinion. But again, there's different types of glamour spells. I just thought I would put that out there, okay? So let's get into some more specific types of, like, let's just talk about it. Negative energy, right? That could be projected at you, people doing spell work on you, that type of energy. Let's talk about that. So black magic. Black magic is supernatural powers or magic used for evil or selfish purposes. It's magic that's typically associated with the devil or other evil spirits. Black magic is usually done intentionally and usually by somebody who's psychotic or has a messiah complex. I don't have to go into detail about all of the weird shit people do when they're practicing black magic, right? Sacrifices, blood magic, mirror magic, conflict spells, even sympathy spells, and negative love spells, right? Sending entities and energies to people and places. This is all black magic, right? Negative spell work. Now let's talk about sex magic. Sex magic is interesting, right? Sex magic is any type of sexual activity used for magical or ritualistic intent, spiritual or religious pursuits. So a lot of people practice sex magic and don't even know it. You're pleasuring yourself and you're visualizing a person, that's sex magic, right? Because remember that a lot of people are empathic. So if you're thinking about somebody and you're masturbating and they're, able to pick up on that, they're intuitive, then that's a form of sex magic, right? So speaking of the twin flame connection or even higher level soulmates, there's a lot of sex magic that goes on within that connection. I think it just happens. This is for good or bad reasons. Okay. Astral rape is a form of negative sex magic. It's done intentionally. People talk about astral rape. I've been astrally raped and it's sometimes not by an actual person. It could be like an entity or, an animal or something like that. It's really creepy. I'm not going to go into details, but that is a form of sex magic. And as I mentioned earlier, we know that weird sexual things are done in religious groups and things like that, and this is for the purpose of raising that energy, raising that creative energy for malicious purposes. Again, it can be as simple as somebody jacking off to your picture, and it can be as complicated as a bunch of assholes in robes that are doing fuck shit to children. Let's move on to evil eye. Now, evil eye is, something that's talked about by a lot of tarot card readers and people that are in the public eye that do this type of work, spiritual, metaphysical work. It's a supernatural belief in a curse brought about by a I can never say this word, malevolent glare, usually given to a person when one is unaware. So this is another one that a lot of people may be doing and not even realizing it, right? A lot of people are psychic. A lot of people have unchecked and unmanaged psychic abilities. So let's say, for example, somebody is clairvoyant, but they're also toxic and low vibrational. They could be sending out the evil eye to people and really, messing with people's energy, and they may not even realize the impact that they're having. They might know on some level that they're intuitive, but they're not doing anything to hone these skills or to keep them under control. And again, they could be toxic and have some healing that they need to do. So they're sending out evil eye energy, right? The belief in the evil eye is ancient and ubiquitous. It goes back a long time. It occurred in ancient Greece and Rome and Jewish tradition, Islamic traditions, Buddhists, Hindus, indigenous, peasants. I mean, a lot of people believe in the evil eye. Again, you'll see a lot of like tarot card readers or people that work in the occult will either wear an evil eye pendant or they'll have it tattooed. If you look at my yoga picture, you'll see I have an evil eye pendant hanging up above my Om symbol. So yeah, it's real, people. So let's move on to curses and hexes, right? This is another familiar, or these two terms are familiar, right? But they're both similar, so that's why I grouped them together. It's a solemn utterance intended to invoke a supernatural power to inflict harm or punishment on someone or something. A generational curse is an example of a curse or a hex, and it's what most light workers are here on a mission to break. I would even say that all light workers have that mission in common, to break generational curses. And we can curse ourselves, right, with bad karma based on our poor choices, and create a generational curse. A sexually transmitted disease that you can't get rid of is an example of a generational curse. Or something like bipolarism that's passed down. These are just things that I've intuitively heard my spirit team tell me are examples of generational curses. Now, take that if it resonates, okay? Curses and hexes are typically intentionally done by people who, again, have that Messiah complex. They think they're God. They think that they can influence the actions of others. And if somebody's in a low enough vibration, they are susceptible to these energies, right? So that's why it's so important to keep your vibe high and to stay away from negative situations and people. But, you know, these people are trying to play God, and God will show up in their lives and show them that you are, in fact, not. Anyways, but like voodoo dolls and puppets are used to curse and hex people. You know, just weird stuff. I mean, curses, hexes, that's a huge topic. People do a lot of different things, and, you know, it's weird to me. But anyways, moving on to binds, okay? Binds are something that's interesting because it's another one that people can do unintentionally. A bind is when two things are joined together for positive or negative purposes. Marriage is an example of a bind, right? When you put those rings on, that's a bind. Even tattoos that are symbolic, right? Those are binds. And then there's love spells, jar spells, and trying to bind somebody to you to steal their energy. There's lots of ways people try to do that. Sex magic is also used along with binding, right? In a lot of ways, you know, sexual energy is just very potent. That's why it's so coveted. That's why it's used a lot. That's why it's stolen from people a lot. People's innocence is stolen from them. Yeah. But voodoo dolls and puppets can be used here as well for binding. A lot of binding is done with candle magic, and like string and twine. You know, just weird shit. So the last thing I want to talk about is a fetter. A fetter is very interesting because it's actually an energy cord. It's something that's used to restrain people. If you're clairsentient, which means that you feel energy, you can feel fetters, right? This energy can typically be felt like around the neck or the ankles or the wrists or even the thumbs. And it's usually something that is attached to you or bound to you or trying to keep you bound, or fettered or restrained, right? Something toxic, something addictive, highly addictive. So this is like the narcissist empath dynamic, right? That's an example of a fetter. Somebody has more power in the relationship than somebody else, and they use that to restrain energetically. In magical terms, it's defined as an intrapsychic phenomenon that ties one to suffering. So that's interesting. So that makes it's similar to a curse, right? It manifests like a burden, like something you're chained to. I mean, think about that term that husbands will use, right? I got the old ball and chain at home. Yeah, I find this whole topic of spell work very interesting. Like, especially when it comes to negative spell work, I just feel like people should find a better use of their time and energy. But, there's positives with spell work. Like I said, you can use this energy work on yourself. So I want to offer some tips that you can use to protect yourself from spell work, black magic, sex magic, curses, hexes, binds, fetters. The first tip is to protect your energy, right? Call on protection from your higher powers. Use your crystals. Make sure that you're cleansing your energy on a regular basis, inside and out, right? So that's going to be things like fasting, spiritual baths, making sure that you're drinking a lot of water, to keeping your environment clean, saging your home, or whatever method you use to cleanse the energy in your space, and just doing those maintenance things to keep your vibration high. But again, calling on your higher powers for protection is a necessity when it comes to protecting you from these energies. To not practice black magic or spell work or do this type of negative energy work, because the law of karma states that whatever you do is going to come back to you, right? And when it comes to magic, it can come back threefold, sometimes even tenfold. And if you do this on a practitioner who is experienced with returning energy to sender, it could be a lot worse. So it's just a good idea to not practice this type of negative energy work. Protection works in layers. So not only do you protect your energy, but you protect the energy of your home. You protect the energy of the ones you care about. You protect the energy of whatever items you care about, right? So again, that includes calling on your higher powers, working with your crystals, whatever it is that you do to layer that protection that's going to keep you safe from this type of negative energy, from these types of negative energy projections. And that's what I'm calling them, right? I don't want to give them power and say that, oh, it's magic and it can work on you, because a lot of this is bullshit, the things that people do. But again, if your vibration is low enough, you could be affected by it, certainly. So I hope this video was helpful for you. I hope it was informative. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Please like, comment, subscribe, and share. And I look forward to speaking to you again really soon. Have a wonderful day. Namaste.